Waiting in the other room for about. I was
Sorry?
waiting in the other room for about 50.
Start recording now. So what do you guys think about delegated voting? Do you have any opinions here? Do you guys know what that means?
Could you briefly explain what it means?
Sure. So basically, as far as I know, IoT is working on delegated voting, and delegated voting is that you can delegate your votes to other people and they vote with your voting power. So basically with your ADA. Yeah.
In that regard, I think it's important that there be some way of knowing who you're delegating your vote to and how to verify that. Is that being thought through?
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's going back, I think last time I used the example of MakerDAO, because I mean MakerDAO's pretty much been around for a while, and they actually have events to where it's like meet your delegate. So I guess the community, like people put their names up to be a delegate, and then they get on pretty much like on YouTube, and they are interviewed by I guess some of the core development team, or like a core, whoever the core team is that's been I'm assuming voted in to those positions by the community. Anyway, they are questioned, they are asked questions, relevant questions to being a delegate. So that could be one way to kind of vet. Certainly it's not the only way, but
I personally think that this idea of just delegating your vote to someone else is like giving up your power and the power of your knowledge to someone else who's supposed to do the thinking for you. And that's a very critical thing. I think there's a process called sortition that's been used in, I mean, since the Greeks really came up with the idea that you establish a qualified pool of people, and you don't delegate your vote to a delegate, you delegate your vote to a pool of qualified people. And then one of those people or several of those people are selected at random from that group of qualified people in order to make the votes. And this kind of disintermediates the power structure from your delegation, so that you're voting for people who are qualified to be there, but they're not in a position of power because they don't even know if they're going to get selected to execute the vote. So you can vote these people out of the qualified pool if they're not qualified or if they act in poor ways. But I think this is a way of disintermediating we see this problem all the time. I mean, I'm in the US and we have this process of, have representative government like in most places in the world. And that there's problems with that. So I think in thinking through about delegation, it should be delegated to a qualified group rather than that maybe has conferences and discusses issues, but it shouldn't be just one individual that has the power of many, in my opinion.
Likely, I wouldn't delegate my votes, even though it's a tiny vote, but I still would delegate it.
Sorry, I didn't understand you, Dimitri, but maybe Zoe can go first and then we can go to you, Dimitri.
Simon, do you want us to use raising our hands to talk, or do you just want to have a free roll?
I mean, whatever works with you guys. I think raising, I'm gonna just try to moderate and prefer the people raising their hands. But if you jump in and it's all right with everyone, we can do it that way as well.
Thank you.
We're not too many people here.
Yeah, just about that, I would very much appreciate if the people, maybe except the host, could mute themselves, because I find it very distracting when sometimes we get the auditory reactions from some people. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering, I think that it is very important that if you can't make up your decision, you don't have to vote. And with the delegated voting power, I think there might be some problems with, yeah, just giving everyone's responsibility away. And I have to say, I'm not sure about that. Also not about the pool of qualified peoples, because I don't know how do you state this quality? How do you qualify people? And also, I think that it is an interesting idea to have an upper limit of voting power when you have a minimal limit, like the minimal limit is 500 ADA. We can also have an upper limit. I think that is a very interesting idea about those voting problems. And yeah, I wanted to ask, what was the initiative for IOG to work out this delegated voting power?
Yes, I would like to know that as well. So, as I think, well, unless Dimitri, do you want to say something first? I'll give my opinion as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I wouldn't delegate my vote.
You couldn't delegate your vote? Well, I think
would not. I would not.
You would not, yeah. Scott, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of touching on everything else. What I had said before was just an example of how it's currently done in a particular situation. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way. So that, yeah, I just want to clarify that. But also, delegation should be entirely up to the voter. The voter should have a choice whether or not they want to delegate their votes. And I don't know, I was thinking like what Dan said as far as like a group of qualified, knowledgeable individuals, but I also agree with what Zoe said. And the thing is that maybe there's a group of friends and they want to choose somebody within their group to vote for all of them. Maybe there's like-minded people in that manner, like people that we know that we're friends that we associate with, and we want to give them our voting power to want to being the key word, give them the power to vote on our behalf because we have many topics, many items in agreement between us. So anyway, that's just another facet. Thanks.
Dean, please.
So I come from a little bit of a different background. One of the things that I find very interesting is that you have this incredible foundation who's allocated funds based upon a methodology where you can build out the entire community, and they're actually providing funds. One of the things back in our particular time during my career, there were no funds. And so there wasn't a matter of voting. There wasn't a matter of money being made available and stuff. What happened was innovation is what drove the vote, right? And typically I see a lot of comments going back and forth about voting and the powers and all this kind of stuff. And I tend to take a step back because when you take a look at what a vote does, people assume that the person that are voting, they understand the exact types of things that are going on. I couldn't read all the projects that was happening. So there are people that I trust in this community that come from a very different perspective than many of the people that are typically in an earlier stage type startup environment. And so I don't vote with all of my voting power. I hold my voting power. I have a separate wallet, and I believe that what Zoe and Scott have said is absolutely the same thing. So I tend to look at something and I'm just saying this for myself. It's important to understand that the community helps drive, and the community helps to determine and stuff. But if we were to actually step back and pretend that there was no financial funding and this community was being built, they used to call these birds of a feather. Okay. They were all out there, birds of a feather. What we looked for and the things that was happening is the innovation and the creativity to create the economy, to create the market to sustain itself. I think it was Quasar who said, I think that's who it was, whoever it was that said he's here to make sure this thing is alive and wanting to move forward. Those are the things that I believe when we take a look at certain things, I can't say this part of this piece of technology and stuff is better than this other one. There's a lot of DEXs now. There are going to be more DEXs. There's a lot of NFTs. There's going to be more NFTs. But where things are going is, if we were to take a step back, for me, I just look at things and go, I see the importance of the voting, but one of the things is I tend to look at, we're about creating innovation. And so I just continue to throw that process out as we continue to do so, because the people started getting together to create innovation. They got together for innovation, not to necessarily create a project and stuff. They did, but not because there was some kind of back end that we continue to move forward. I know that's my different perspective that comes from what I went through. And so to see things that are happening inside of Catalyst is just incredible to see that these funds are being made available. But I've said it before, there's many times we created innovation by supplying someone a hard drive. All the person needed was a hard drive. They wanted to have a little bit of a faster CPU, and they would build out this innovation. So I tend to look at it a little bit different, as opposed to delegation, as to these are some things that are extremely innovative. And then when that catches my eye, I dive down more and more into that concept. And so just my thoughts.
Dan? Oh, all right. Zoe, do you want to go ahead?
I was very much thinking, because of this current voting round and how it went and the impressions I collected, what an informed decision even is, and how much information there has to be to make an informed decision. And I think it's such a difficult question that it's a much more complex than just a complex problem than just inside of Catalyst. And I think that inside of Catalyst, we maybe have to find our own probably very new solutions. I mean, there's a voter tool, and the app for voting is also a tool, if you want to say it like this. But yeah, I think that maybe we have to really think about this as a community, because these are questions that are not new, but they have a scale which is global, and it doesn't just concern our project. So I think that with this informed decision stuff, it will be a very much bigger discussion than just Swarm or just Catalyst. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, just wanted to drop that because I don't think that one solution like delegated voting or something will just solve the problem, you know, if it isn't a solution. But yeah, not wanting to be a bad thank you.
Yeah, Scott.
So this is going to be extremely unpopular, I'm sure. So, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I don't know how many people actually use the voter tool. If you do use a voter tool when you vote, you'll see how much funding remains of the projects that you have selected. It keeps an aggregated amount as opposed to what's available. And so if people use that tool, like if there was some sort of mechanism to where once you've reached that maximum threshold for monetary requirement for all your votes in that particular challenge setting, then voting would be so much simpler. And I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, because some challenges you vote for 8 projects and then the budget has been met. I mean, so in my opinion, I don't see what the value is to continue voting beyond that. I could be wrong. I probably am, but I hope y'all understand what I'm getting at. Anyway, that's it. Thanks again.
Yeah, before I go back to you, Zoe, I would also like to share my opinion, because I think first of all that that the voting system that we have right now is a problem, has an inherent problem anyway, because it is weighted voting by ADA, and so in our system, the people who have the most ADA, have the most power, and they certainly, wouldn't cut themselves in their own flesh, right, by voting for something that is bad for them, but maybe is good for the system, or for some incumbents that that want to create something completely different. So the weighted voting, in my opinion, is a problem in itself. I think we need to move to a democratic system, or maybe even to a better system than that. Like I've heard a lot about. Sorry, I can't find the name right now. But I also want to say, I think what Dan said was really interesting, because he didn't have these tools, so it's really kind of like we say a first world problem, right? So now we have all those fundings, and we have voting, and just because, well, it's not the best kind of voting. Well, we have voting, right? that's pretty cool. Hope we make it better. Yes, and then to the delegated voting itself. Like if we zoom in to the delegated voting, I feel like if anyone has seen the Catalyst Circle video, I would highly recommend that you watch Matthias. I think it was Matthias. Yeah, Matthias Siebers part, where he talks about I think it was a very harsh comparison to Nazi Germany, but I can also see where he's coming from. Like if people delegate their votes to other people and they vote for them, right? I mean, it does kind of remind of a time where people didn't think too much with their own brains, and then bad things happened out of that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Now please, Zoe, go ahead.
Well, it's getting to a lot of topics.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just could you please share the link to that video with the comparisons too?
I'm looking for it already.
Nice, thank you. Because Nazi comparisons are always such a red flag for me. Like I live in the neighbor country of where that shit happened, and yeah, the people that were responsible for some shit here, hide it in Switzerland, and I don't want to say we, but maybe I have to. Swiss people just contributed to keeping things going that are just not cool, and so things like that are very much a red flag for me, because humans like always tend to they want to give work to others, or they want to compromise work, and if you're in the flow of some work, you can just do it better and stuff. So I really much understand the necessity of compromising work, and it will happen all the time, because that's the way of least resistance, and humans just go that all the time. I think that some of the informational problems could also be solved when we go away from idea scale, or make idea scale better, because both the voting tool and the voting app just show some bits of idea scale, and to read the whole proposal, you always have to go back to idea scale, and nobody makes that for more than, like, let's say 20 proposals. At some point, you just are tired of always going back and forth from browser and app. And I think that idea scale, or the way it is functioning, is a big block of or it blocks a lot of the information flow, because if you wrote the proposal one, you know that you don't have many characters for explaining stuff, and it's really compromised to a point where you just can go for your universal target you have, and not how what you want to build functions at the end. And yeah, if that would be made better, and the voting tools automatically take this more bits of information and bigger bits of information, that would already increase a lot of the information flow, and also help proposers stay honest and transparent, and really just teasing their projects with the amount of characters they need. I think that a lot of important details and a lot of important thought patterns or thought processes get lost when you have to really boil it down to like 1 or 2 sentences.
So I 100% concur with Zoe. Like, having to log in every time you want to view a proposal is absolutely ludicrous, and to expect that of voters is also 100% ludicrous. And I want to touch on like the proposals as well, because it's something that you said, Simone, that like, people vote and they don't know what the impact is of what they're voting for. Maybe that should be part of the requirements for proposers, is actually put in there if there's a system-wide impact to their project. I know there's an impact section on the proposal requirements. Maybe that's something that should be in there too, something that shows. Some people do put it in the scalability side of it, I believe, but like to show the actual true impact to the protocol or to any processes or processes that it may touch on. Just suggestion. I mean, that's all we can do right now is make suggestions, because it seems like nothing ever changes. But anyway, thank you, and pass it to Dan.
Yeah, well, I feel that there's a solution to this problem, and the proposal that I currently have in is to establish and start with a different kind of platform. The problem is a structural one. You need to have a platform. IdeaScale is primarily was designed around a hierarchical kind of competitive framework. And you need to start with a collaborative one. So we've chosen Hype Innovation, and I've got a partnership with them to establish a new way of putting together these proposals. I think this core problem is even though we have this proposal platform idea scale, the way we're implementing it and using it is the old way, where you just get a handful of your own friends and people that are willing to collaborate with you and work together, and you work from this very small limited sense of how many people that you can get involved in what you're doing, and basically you put together a very limited perspective in a very closed fashion. You submit this proposal, and then you expect, I think it's 1.2 million voters or something out there that are trying to understand this thing. It's a totally, it's disconnected from the production, the preparation of the proposal. And so the collaborative model that I'm introducing has to do with how do you begin with the whole community and use the skills of the whole community and the knowledge and understanding from the whole community to distill that down into the things that need to be done, and then putting together qualified proposals that are worth the evaluation by the community based upon the engagement that people have already made in it. I know that what I'm trying to describe here is something that's kind of hard to grasp, but that's why we're putting together the proposal, and we'll just demonstrate it, and people will see that there are better ways of organizing kind of how this thing should be structured. And it's basically a way of how to organize people around their interests and around their skill sets and their abilities to put together good solutions for the Cardano environment. But you do that before you have to build proposals. It's a part about the community effort organizing their ideas first. And I know it's hard to understand this without seeing some examples, but that's what I'm all about.
Dan, how do you avoid too many chefs in the kitchen, though?
Well, you do it by, I mean, if let's just take the kitchen example, right? I mean, say there are 100 people in the kitchen. Some of those people are interested in the pastry part of it. Some people are interested in the pizza part. Some people want to just chop vegetables. Other people want to do this. So let them go to the things that interest them, and that they can coalesce or kind of coalesce around those kinds of activities and those things that pique their interest. And by have them kind of self-select where they're going to go and what they're going to do in the kitchen, and then have kind of this is kind of a very human process for kind of self-selecting and self-organizing. It needs a methodology, and that's why there needs to be a platform to help organize that. But by your choosing a category or something of interest, you can kind of vote on it and say, hey, that's a good idea. And there are methodologies for in innovation management platforms for letting the good ideas bubble to the top through the participation by the community. And then the community doesn't have to select anymore. The whole community doesn't have to look at the few good ideas. The community only has to look at those ideas that have really bubbled to the top. Does that explain it?
If I just can connect to that, isn't that happening in the voting app with the CA assessments, kinda? That it bubbles to the top?
Well, I don't think it's coming from the right perspective, because even the CAs can't read 1,200 proposals. So there's no way for them to make a proper evaluation of 1,200 proposals to provide valuable information about the whole system. I think the evaluation of the projects has to happen during the creation of the project, so that those people who are engaged and involved and say, hey, yeah, this is a really good idea, and a bunch of people get excited around it, they are praising it, and they're evaluating it and helping the community understand the value that's being contributed, but it has to happen with the whole community rather than just a handful of people that get together and kind of scrape together a proposal that is going to maybe meet the guidelines. This is kind of producing proposals out of scarcity. We have a huge abundance in the community of great skills and great ideas and all, and we're not using that. We're just expecting the handful of people that a few people that kind of who know one another to try to get together to put these, and it's working out of scarcity rather than working out of the value that the whole community has.
So Dan, so I'm gonna push back a little bit. I mean, I'll give you an example, my own, right? I'm building this music platform on Cardano, and my approach is one that is not one that people agree. I mean, well, on the outside looking in, they don't agree, right? And it's this idea of I'm empowering the record labels as something that if you look at music streaming platforms on the blockchain going back several years, every single one of them try to, their approach was to cut out the record labels, to demonize them. And so what I say is, I mean, on the outside looking in, without really knowing the machinations of the music business, it sounds like a good idea, but it's not. And so if I had to go against the entire, if I was beholden to the community, I would never be able to get this off. The fact that I know what I'm talking about, and when I talk to actual people in the business, they agree. I know what I'm talking about, right? And so how would I combat the community? I mean, I guess what comes to mind is I forgot what the quote was. If you ask somebody, Henry T. Ford said, if you ask somebody what they would want, they would say a faster horse, right? They wouldn't even have conceived of the car, right? So it's kind of that. How do you?
Right. Well, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think that you should design a system in which you would have to be beholden to the community. I mean, your innovation, your knowledge of the industry is the thing that's bringing you to a successful and a new perspective, one that doesn't look back for old horses, as they're faster horses. You've recognized, because you've been inside the industry, what is a good solution, and it's kind of responsibility of your good idea to explain and have people understand that it's better. This is a better way than going with the faster horse. So I think what I'm talking about is exactly what you're describing here. Is you've defined an innovative solution and an understandable methodology that works better, and so that will bubble to the top. I mean, ultimately, it's not going by, we're not designing by committee. It's still about how to put together the best innovative ideas and organizing with people, and collaboration and cooperation. But you're doing it, right? I mean, you've got the people now around you that are working on it. Yeah, of course you're going to get haters and people who don't understand, but you'll prove it wrong.
Sorry, Dean. I saw your hand up. I just, I wanted to quickly address what Dan was talking about, and I thought it made sense in the natural flow of conversation to do that instead of waiting at the end.
Yeah, I think that was all right.
I just want to put my idea forward, and I think one of the biggest problems that I have with the catalyst voting system is that I see that the amount of time we have only about 6 weeks to evaluate all the proposals and know and vote. That's really a very short time, whether it is for the VCs or for the voters. So in that respect, any other method, I feel like is I don't think it's going to be optimal or it's going to be trustworthy. Instead of, for me, it's having a skin in the game, have at least some value. So unless we come up with another way of coming to consensus with the tools we have, I don't see any other way of empowering people to vote. But the other thing is that one thing that I think we have forgotten is, and I find value in it, this challenge system. That kind of decentralized, for me, at least, the whole thing. Now I can go into the app and go into the challenges that interest me, and I can vote. But that system can be extended even more. For example, geographically or permanent challenges, for example, in terms of issues. If that is the case, then maybe we will have people who would specialize in certain subjects, either to vote or to assess. But now everything is in one pot, except for the challenges when it comes to voting. And that's going to make really huge problem. And I really don't see a system that I can trust, a concrete system that I can trust, except for someone or for someone to vote, except having a skin in the game. So really, between voting and coming to consensus, we are in these two. These are the two really options we have, and what we need is to go to consensus. How are we going to go to consensus instead of voting? I think steps like dividing the issues, putting challenges, and decentralize the whole approach. For example, until now, we haven't considered a geography as not only in the catalyst, but also in stake pools, for example, that could really help to decentralize the whole system. So that's, I think, the point I would like to make.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that at the end. What would the stake pools?
I mean, today stake pools are concentrated into one geographic area. That we have been discussing about stake pools having, for example, running multiple stakes, for example, stake pools. And if we have some way of putting into the protocol to decentralize that, the same way, for example, if we do the same thing for Catalyst, maybe there would be some concrete way of decentralizing. It's about decentralizing the whole issue. It's decentralizing. We are not capable of really learning or knowing the entire ecosystem, but we can specialize into certain things, into certain issues, certain geographic areas. We can specialize in that, and we can vote, and we can. But now it's the entire thing is in one pot, and we are expected to vote on that, and the entire system to expected to function in a decentralized way, while we are putting the entire thing into one pot. So I think we need to work on that on the protocol level and on an organizational level to have a better outcome than simply disallowing. For me, the skin in the game is really a concrete way of knowing that somebody who votes is going to vote for something. Because it's, for example, if somebody votes against the protocol, that's going to hurt him. If he has the skin in the game, then he votes for the protocol. If the protocol is good, functions well as it's supposed to be, if it is decentralized, people are going to stay. Otherwise, people are going to leave. For example, Gimbal Labs, they were talking about, for example, forking the entire Cardano system. That's what's going to happen. People who have a lot of money, if they start voting for bad projects, that's what's going to happen. Therefore, I would like to believe that that's not what they are going to do, because it is their money. So they would vote for a better system than what we are afraid of now. That's just the thought that I have.
I would just like to challenge that a little bit, because like a better system for who? I mean,
For the protocol.
but we're not building it for the protocol, right? We're building it for us, for the people. So but we can make the protocol faster and like have like those. But then when we're talking about governance, which we're doing when we talk about voting power, then it's really about us and not about the protocol itself, but a system of collaboration with each other. So if this collaboration system benefits the people with more power, with more ADA, they would, there's just, the incentive is just not there to hurt themselves, which of course is understandable, right? Like I wouldn't hurt myself if I had the chance, but yeah, that might not be the best system. Then is what I think.
I agree. It's not the best system, but what is a better way of doing that?
Absolutely, and there I totally agree with you.
Allowing people who don't have skin in the game to have more power. How are you going to make sure that they are not going to do the same thing? If you compare people who don't have skin in the game and who have skin, I would rather have people who have the skin in the game do the voting or do the deciding than people don't have skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean,
if there is another way of doing that, for example, decentralization is really the best way, I think, but we don't have that. That's the problem that I see.
Yes. What is the problem called again? The
skin in the game.
No, the civil attack, right?
Yeah.
We can't prevent a civil attack if we don't have weighted voting right now. So I think that is what you're referring to, right?
Not only that, not only civil attack, but how I've been listening, for example, to people who are saying that this voting system is not fair. It's not fair, and it's not supposed to be fair either. What is being built is a protocol that's going to be fair. It started as an unfair system. It was sold to people who have money. Those people invested their money when, not many people will have taken that amount of money and put into that protocol. They have done that, and they know. We all, I think, if you are believing in Cardano's future, then that's what they are invested on. I have no reason to really distrust them because they have voted for somebody or they haven't voted for someone. So that's what I'm saying. If we don't have any other mechanism to really ensure fairness, then the system is working as it's supposed to work. It's not the best system, I know, I understand, but then we have to come up really a good system that can promote decentralization, that can promote fairness. But if you are arbitrarily changing the system because we don't like it, that really, that's the entire thing that I heard until now is that people are saying that it's not fair. They don't like it, or somebody have done that. That's not really a very good reason for me. We have to really think of the protocol. How can we make the protocol more fair? How can we make the network more decentralized. When it is decentralized, then it will be fair. But it's not decentralized. The ADA is not really diffusing as fast as, for example, we like, or the stake pools are not decentralized. They are being more and more centralized. I think those are the things that, and geographically it is concentrated into one area, both the stake pools and both the delegators. And in fact, we know most of the ADA is in Japan, for example. I don't know if they are voting. So the whole system is not really fair, or the whole system is not really right, in fact. Yeah. But it's where, that's where we are going. That I would like to believe that that's where we are going, and that's the intention. So instead of for example, saying that it's not, yeah, I don't want to really, I don't want to question the intentions of people, of those people who have. I would, in fact, question the intentions of the stake pool operators who are running multiple pools and who don't want to get away from that because they just come in and they got this power suddenly, and they don't want to give up that power. That's what happens when you get power suddenly, then you don't want to give up. That I know. But the people who invested their money long time back, I have no reason to question their intentions is going to be bad. Just what I feel. That's what I want to put.
Thanks. Zoe.
Yeah, I share a lot of concerns that T raised. And I just wanted to respond to two of them. I think that at the moment, as Cardano functions, we see this skin of the game as amount of ADA. It's the proof of skin in the game is like the amount of ADA you have. And I think that this is problematic. But it is also problematic to do it in another way. Maybe this would help, but we don't have them yet, like on a real big scale. Yeah, my concern with ADA being the skin in the game starts with you don't just have to know about Cardano to be able to buy ADA. You also have to have money, and some people just don't have that. In fact, very many people on the planet don't have money. And I'm really also thinking about that fairness when we just reinforce the privileges that are already there. And about the centralization, I sometimes think that it is not a problem that some operate multiple pools, because of course, like there's a pool that like has 7 or something. That's crazy. But like if somebody has like 3 pools or something, I don't really care. But where I do care is that the single pool operators don't have a choice. It just seems like if you don't get the perfect marketing on Twitter and the reach on, I don't know, all over some continents, you just don't really have a chance to even become a solid single pool operator. It's really crazy. I'm staking. I started staking with a very, very small pool in Africa, single pool, and they have a great vision and a great mission, and they're trying everything. But Africa just has some problems with internet access, with hardware access, and and when they have problem like that, it is clear that they also don't have money to just suddenly buy 500 ADA to be able to vote. And I think that those, yeah, some things we just seem to take for granted, and we want to like include the whole planet, and we just forget about the whole planet, and that really bothers me, I have to say.
I actually would say that even having 3 stake pools should, or is a problem already. Like, first of all, like, where do you stop, right? 3, 7, 20. But also the next problem is, and the stake pool operators are a little bit right in that, if there's no incentive for them to have only one stake pool, right? If they can operate two. So that is also something that we should address on a systematic level. But then how do we do that? I wouldn't know of a solution, right? So.
Yeah, I agree. When I said that with the numbers, I also thought about if you want to put limits, where do you put the limits, and how do you find out where to put the limits? That's of course a very important question, and I you know, if the initiative will come up that only one pool operated or one pool can be operated, I don't care. It's not really about the multi-pools. It's about having no choice for the other ones, because obviously the ones that operate multiple pools do have choices, and they do have possibilities, and they can just operate several pools and have people delegating to them. At some point, it doesn't seem to require any effort anymore.
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, I'm not operating a pool, but from what I hear, it is quite an effort to operate a pool continuously.
Yeah, sure. But I was thinking about something like Bloom. I don't mean to share anything here. It's just a really a pool with many pools, and just what happened with Sunday Swap. They have like seven pools, and they set up an additional one just for Sunday Swap, and it got filled overnight somehow, or maybe not overnight, of course, but really fast. And that's what I meant when I said without much effort, because at some point people are just like, oh, okay, this person has many pools, and they all spit out 5% ADA, and yeah, it's especially when coupled to an event like a Sunday Swap ISO, it's very easy to grow a little bit more than if you just have to make an 8 pool than just operating 7. I just meant that difference in scale, not that it is easy to run a pool, just to be clear about that.
Right, yes, that makes sense, yeah. Of course.
I have a question. Zoe raised a question. I don't think we are going to have as much or fair amount of ADA into Africa as for the next 20 or 30 years, even if we try as much as there is in Japan. If we are going to think like that, this is not going to be a fair protocol at all. It's going to take, I don't know, a very long time for the ADA to diffuse. But what do you think about the Hydra? Because when Hydra comes out, that means that each stake pool is going to run, for example, by a community for their own use. That means it's going to decentralize. In fact, I would like to believe that. I'm not quite sure. I have read some of the materials, but then, for example, countries can run their own, or villages can run their own Hydra, because it is cheaper to do that. If they do that, would you think that would create a fairer system, instead of thinking about only ADA? If we think about the protocol and about the network, would that create, because after all, it's a utility. Cardano as a blockchain is a utility. What do you think about that?
I don't have a comment on that. I was going to suggest that I think, I don't know if it's individual responsibility, or if it's, whoever's hosting the meeting or IOG, whoever it is, but we have these discussions about the same topics, but there's like, I'm not going to say there's no structure, because I appreciate the various views and input and thoughts. But I don't ever see us really drilling down into a particular issue. We just bring issues up, we discuss them, then we do the same thing again the following week or on Wednesday in breakout rooms. We need to, if we want to make progress, we legitimately need to have some sort of path forward. And if we're on topic, and I'm not talking about deviating during this conversation, I'm talking about any conversation. If we're on topic, we need to stay on topic and drill down, and then you continue to drill down, and hopefully come up with some sort of consensus, or on maybe 1 or 2 or 3 solutions to an issue. Might not be our consensus, but it's at least a consensus that we could bring to the community as a whole, or something of that nature.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we should stay more. I mean, we're almost at the end of the session, I think. Only 5 people anymore, and I will leave soon as well. But we need to drill down more and stay more on this specific topic of delegated voting next time. Yeah, so I gotta say though, I really enjoyed this open, this open format as well. Maybe that's why I kind of allowed it to drift away, because usually when I'm in the team meetings with Catalyst School, for example, then we're, narrowing down on one single topic, going through the agenda list, right? And really stay on topic. So yes, so sorry if we got a little off track.
No, don't get me wrong, I wasn't complaining, but I've literally had this conversation probably 4 times now.
All right.
And
Yeah.
and everybody says the same thing every time. There's nothing wrong with that at all, because everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it's just, and I always say this, it's circular. I mean, we talk about it, everybody goes away, we talk about it again, same thing is said, and we do it again, and we do it again. And we never go any deeper than just thoughts. So anyway, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So sorry. What was the name again? Tifera?
My name is Tagain.
Tekin?
Tagain, yes.
Tekin. Yes. Sorry. I'm not so good with names, but
Yeah,
I'll try to remember.
it's a very difficult name. Anyway, you can call me Tafara. That's, I think, the easiest, the easier one.
Thanks.
Many
Did
people
you
do that.
have your hand open? Do you want to say something?
Oh,
Or did you
no,
just-
no, I just forgot to lower it. Sorry.
Then so please.
Yeah, I just wanted to very much agree with Scott. I am also sometimes frustrated with, we have a great conversation with people and we find out about stuff we would like to make better, and then you drop into another conversation about the same topic and they seem to, I'll say it in a bit bad way, they seem to talk about the basics again. And there are other people who just discuss that for several hours sometimes, and it just gets lost. And
Do you have any idea?
yeah, same.
Could maybe be more, go more in depth on the topic.
Yeah, when we did someday, or I found people to really work on one problem, and we now try to implement a solution. And yeah, soon we'll hear about the listeners. It's the initiative we're building. But yeah, it was a hard way to make sure everybody's on the same page, and it will continue to be hard work, not only for this initiative, for every initiative in Catalyst. And yeah, I don't feel like there's a quick solution, because else I'd be angry it wasn't implemented yet. But yeah, just to assure that this problem is really real, and we hopefully will address it. Yeah, it's kind of ironic to say that, to address it again.
So unless you guys have any more in-depth thoughts on the topic, I think I'm gonna stop recording. We can, still go on if you guys like, but I'll soon have to leave as well.